On the morning of August 10th, local news outlets in Seoul, South Korea, reported a development in an ongoing criminal investigation that had attracted significant public interest for several months. The case revolved around alleged threats made against the personal manager of Jungkook, a member of the internationally recognized South Korean music group BTS. For weeks, the investigation had been proceeding quietly, with only limited information made available to the public. However, authorities announced that the case had reached a turning point, culminating in an arrest that investigators themselves described as unexpected, due to both the suspect's identity and the circumstances surrounding the apprehension, according to the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency's official statement. The arrest took place late in the evening on August 9th after coordinated efforts between the Cybercrime Investigation Unit and the Special Crimes Division. The suspect, whose identity has not yet been publicly disclosed in compliance with privacy regulations, is believed to have sent multiple threats to Jungkook's manager over a period of approximately 6 weeks. These threats, which were transmitted through a combination of electronic messages and direct phone calls, reportedly contained explicit language that raised concerns about personal safety, prompting law enforcement to prioritize the case. The first public indication that something unusual was happening behind the scenes emerged in late June, when BTS's management company, Big Hit Music, issued a brief statement through its official channels. The statement did not mention Jungkook by name but confirmed that the company was cooperating with authorities regarding a series of threats directed at a member of our staff. At the time, the company emphasized that legal measures were being taken and that further details would be provided once the investigation advanced. No additional comments were made until this week's announcement. Investigators disclosed that the arrest was the result of a multi-jurisdictional effort. The suspect was located in a different province, more than 200 kilometers from Seoul, which complicated the tracking process. Digital forensic teams reportedly traced IP addresses and phone records over the course of several weeks, narrowing down the search until they were able to secure a court-issued warrant for both surveillance and, eventually, an arrest. While arrests in threat cases are not unusual, the lead investigator stated during a press briefing that the profile of the suspect did not align with the initial investigative assumptions, which contributed to the element of surprise in the final operation. The term unexpected arrest, used in the official report, has been the subject of media analysis since the announcement. Journalists covering the case have interpreted this phrasing as an indication that the suspect's identity may not match the public's presumptions. Prior speculation in online communities had suggested that the perpetrator might be a hostile fan or an individual with a prior history of harassment involving BTS or its staff. However, no evidence has yet been released to confirm or deny these theories, and police have urged the public to avoid drawing conclusions before official disclosures are made. From a legal standpoint, the case falls under South Korea's laws addressing intimidation, harassment, and threats to personal safety. Article 283 of the Criminal Act provides for penalties against individuals who threaten others with harm, including imprisonment or substantial fines. In cases where the victim is a public figure or where the threats involve multiple incidents over an extended period, courts have historically considered harsher sentencing guidelines. In this instance, the victim's role as the personal manager of a globally known artist could be considered an aggravating factor in sentencing, though the final determination would rest with the judiciary. Big Hit Music's follow-up statement, issued shortly after the arrest, confirmed that the company would continue to cooperate fully with legal authorities and would not provide further comment until the suspect's court appearance. The agency reiterated its policy of pursuing legal action against any threats or harassment toward its artists and staff, emphasizing that such measures are taken to ensure a safe working environment. Industry observers have noted that Big Hit Music, along with its parent company HYB Corporation, has a history of actively engaging in legal proceedings against individuals who engage in defamation, stalking, or threatening behavior toward their artists. While the case has gained considerable media traction due to Jungkook's prominence in the entertainment industry, law enforcement representatives have stressed that their approach remains consistent with standard investigative procedure. Officials emphasize that the case is being handled in accordance with the same legal principles applied to any threat-related investigation, regardless of the victim's profile. This stance reflects the police's effort to avoid any perception of preferential treatment or special handling due to the high-profile nature of the individuals involved. The timeline of events leading up to the arrest remains only partially disclosed. Based on available information, the threats reportedly began in early June, escalating in frequency and severity over the following weeks. By mid-June, the manager had filed a formal police report, which initiated the official investigation. Forensic analysis of electronic communications was a key component of the case, with investigators reportedly utilizing specialized software to trace the digital origins of the threatening messages. Once the suspect was located, police maintained discreet surveillance for several days before moving in to make the arrest. An official from the prosecutor's office confirmed that the suspect is currently in custody and undergoing interrogation. Under South Korean law, suspects can be detained for up to 48 hours without formal charges while prosecutors determine the exact legal basis for the case. If sufficient evidence is found, the suspect may be formally charged and either released on bail or held in pretrial detention. The prosecutor also noted that the court may issue a restraining order to prevent any further contact between the suspect and the victim, pending the outcome of the trial. And the broader context of public safety in the entertainment industry, this incident underscores the challenges faced by individuals who work closely with high-profile figures. While much public attention is directed toward the artists themselves, managers, assistants, and other staff members often operate behind the scenes and may be equally vulnerable to harassment or threats. This case, in particular, has brought renewed attention to the security protocols in place for BTS's management team, though Big Hit Music has not disclosed any changes to its operational procedures following the incident. As of the latest update, the suspect's first court appearance is expected to take place within the next 7 days. At that time, prosecutors are likely to present the charges formally, and defense counsel will have an opportunity to respond. Until then, both law enforcement and the management company have urged the public to rely only on verified information released through official channels. The origins of the threat case involving BTS member Jungkook's manager trace back to the early days of June, when internal security protocols within Big Hit Music first detected abnormal communication attempts directed toward one of their staff members. According to information later confirmed by the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency, these communications consisted of repeated unsolicited messages and phone calls that escalated in both frequency and tone over time. While the exact content of the earliest messages has not been disclosed due to the ongoing investigation, sources familiar with the case indicated that the communications contained language that could be interpreted as menacing and were targeted specifically at the individual serving as Jungkook's personal manager. At the outset, the manager reportedly treated the initial messages as possible instances of mistaken identity or minor nuisance behavior, a common occurrence for public-facing professionals in the entertainment industry. However, by the second week of June, the nature of the communications shifted in a way that raised the level of concern. According to an unnamed industry contact who spoke to local media under the condition of anonymity, the tone of the messages became more direct, referencing the manager's work schedule and other details not publicly available. This suggested that the sender might have access to insider information or had been monitoring the manager's movements. It was at this stage that Big Hit Music's internal security team became directly involved. The company's protocol for dealing with potential harassment cases involves immediate documentation of all communications, preservation of evidence in both digital and physical formats, and coordination with legal counsel to determine the appropriate course of action. Once the situation met the criteria for a possible criminal threat under South Korean law, the decision was made to escalate the matter to law enforcement authorities. On June 14th, the manager filed a formal police report with the Jongno police station in Seoul, accompanied by representatives from Big Hit Music's legal team. By the end of June, investigators had compiled an extensive case file containing both the original threatening communications and a growing body of analytical data. The stage was set for the next phase of the investigation, which would shift from reactive measures, responding to incoming threats, to proactive identification and tracking of the individual responsible. The results of this effort would eventually lead to the arrest that became the focal point of public attention in early August, but at the time, those developments were still several weeks away. With the initial threat reports fully documented and the case officially assigned to the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency's Cybercrime Investigation Unit, the investigation entered a more technical and methodical phase in early July. This stage was focused on transforming the collected evidence, text messages, audio recordings, and call logs, into actionable intelligence that could lead to the identification and apprehension of the suspect. The first priority for investigators was to establish a verified chain of custody for all digital evidence. In cases involving electronic communications, maintaining the integrity of data is critical for its admissibility in court. Every file, screenshot, and audio sample was assigned a unique identification code and stored in secure servers accessible only to authorized personnel. Independent forensic analysts were brought in to validate that the materials had not been altered in any way since they were first received by the victim and Big Hit Music's legal team. This procedural safeguard ensured that the defense would have limited grounds to challenge the authenticity of the evidence during trial proceedings. Once the evidence was secured, the technical team began the process of tracing the source of the threats. This involved a multi-layered analysis combining metadata extraction, geolocation estimation, and network routing patterns. In several instances, the messages were found to have originated from public Wi-Fi networks, a tactic commonly used to obscure the sender's physical location. However, investigators noted that even public networks maintain logs that can, under legal authority, be accessed to determine the devices connected at specific times. These logs, when cross-referenced with surveillance footage from the locations in question, can yield potential leads. Parallel to the digital tracing efforts, the Special Crimes Division conducted interviews with individuals who might have knowledge of the manager's personal and professional activities. The aim was to determine whether the threats could be linked to a known associate, a disgruntled business contact, or an external party with prior grievances. According to a police source familiar with the case, these interviews included both current and former staff members within the entertainment industry. The results did not reveal any direct suspects, but did help investigators narrow the scope of inquiry by eliminating several potential leads. By mid-July, the investigative team had compiled a list of IP addresses and device identifiers linked to the threatening communications. Some of these were traced to residential addresses, while others were linked to mobile devices registered under third-party names. This presented an additional challenge, as South Korean telecommunications regulations permit individuals to register mobile services using corporate or family accounts, making it more difficult to establish a direct connection between a specific person and a device. To overcome these challenges, the police sought and obtained additional court orders allowing for extended surveillance measures. These included the monitoring of certain communication channels